So do you want to roleplay a specialist that outperforms everybody else in their craft? Do you like combat to be a puzzle where positioning matters just as much as damage? In today's video, we're diving into the unique value that you get by picking Rogue as your character class in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Hi everybody, my name is John from DM Shower Thoughts, where we find our best selves through gaming. So today we're continuing our foray into examining the 13 official classes that are in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons right now. And for today's video, we're going to be looking at the unique value that you get by picking Rogue. So I'm going to preface this by saying that Rogue is my favorite class in 5th edition. So this video is made with both a hefty amount of love and bias. Like with all the videos in this series, I'm going to be evaluating the class's mechanics rather than its story because 5th edition has a large amount of thematic overlap in its class design. For example, one of the rogue archetypes that you can pick is the Scout Rogue, which has a lot of thematic overlap with the Ranger. However, anyone that's played those two classes next to each other know that they play very, very different mechanically. So we're gonna leave the storytelling to your imagination and ask ourselves the question, mechanically, what's the value in picking Rogue? Now, just like before, I'm gonna be picking 5 mechanics that the Rogue gets that really distinguishes its style of gameplay. Starting off with major mechanic number 1, which is the Rogue's expertise. Now, although expertise as a feature is not unique to the Rogue, bards get it too, Rogue is the only class that gets it at first level. With the expertise feature at first level, a player gets to choose 2 skills that they have proficiencies in, and they get to double their proficiency bonus with those skills. Another thing unique to the Rogue's expertise is that a Rogue can also choose to have an expertise in Thieves' Tools. And this is a great time to mention that a skill proficiency and a tool proficiency are different kinds of proficiencies. Now, doubling the proficiency bonus is an incredibly powerful bonus that ramps with a character's level. And it also makes it so that a rogue with an expertise in a skill will usually outperform other classes that are usually associated with that skill. To really nail this point home, let's look at 2 class builds side by side. A 5th level rogue and a 5th level druid. If both classes are building with a standard array, it's fair to say that the 2 class builds might look something like this side by side. The thing to highlight here is that for the druid, Wisdom is its primary ability score, whereas with the Rogue, it's a secondary score. Even then, let's say that both classes took a Perception proficiency, which by and far in my experience is the most used skill proficiency in the game. You can see that a Rogue with its expertise in Perception gets a +8 bonus, whereas a Druid, even though its Wisdom is its primary ability score, only has a +7 bonus. And this gap only widens as the characters level up. By 17th level, the Rogue's Perception bonus will be +14, whereas the Druid's will only be +10. And that assumes their ability scores are going to be the same modifiers. If you account for ASIs, and Rogue also gets an additional ASI at 10th level, then usually what it'll actually look like is the Druid will have a +11 Perception bonus, whereas the Rogue will max out at +17. And again, that's not even factoring in if that rogue takes the observant feat, so that their passive perception could be a 32. What this means is an intentionally built rogue specialist will be the very best at the thing they choose to specialize in. And this can be an excellent narrative gateway to explain your character's backstory and maybe some specialized training that they had. And just a reminder, Rogue also gets 2 additional expertises at 6th level. So in total, there should be 4 expertises that the Rogue has access to. The one warning I will put in with this is oftentimes a player will pick their skills and their class because they think that class matches those skills. For example, somebody might build a cleric and expect that their character will have the best religion score, or build a wizard and expect that their character has the best arcana score. Because of the way that the rogue's expertise is calculated though, you can accidentally step on the toes of another player's character concept. So you just want to be mindful of the party composition when you go to build your rogue. Then again, as a dungeon master, one of the other calls that you can make is maybe you give an expertise to that cleric or that wizard for that one specialized skill check, which represents some sort of training or studying that they're doing in their downtime. That way, everyone can have their unique niche that their character occupies so that they feel like they're contributing value to the overall party. Just make sure you don't hand out too many expertises, because again, if you start flooding the characters with those expertises, it'll start to devalue the build option of the rogue. Major mechanic number 2 is the rogue's sneak attack feature. Sneak attack is a distinct combat mechanic for the rogue that sets it up as a premier damage dealer. Sneak attack is a set of dice that a rogue player gets to add to their damage roll once per turn, given that certain conditions are met. First, a rogue has to be using a ranged or finesse weapon. And second, a rogue either has to have advantage on the attack roll that they're making, or there has to be a hostile creature within 5 feet of their target. After all, the enemy of my enemy is my sneak attack enabler. At first level, the additional sneak attack dice starts as 1d6, but increases by 1d6 every other level. By the time you're a 19th level rogue, you'll be sneak attacking with 10d6 extra dice, which is the same as a 5th level fireball. And again, that's every turn, not every round. This means if you get an opportunity attack, or for whatever reason you get to make a weapon attack that satisfies those sneak attack conditions outside of your normal turn, like a Battlemaster's Commander's Strike, then you still get to add the sneak attack damage to that weapon attack. Now, the other interesting thing about sneak attack is that usually, in my experience anyway, in order to get sneak attack to go off, which is a huge reward for both the rogue and the party, you do have to have your team on board in terms of helping you position your opponent or your target so that you can get that sneak attack to trigger. Whether it's making sure the tanking character stays within 5 feet of your target, or you have a support caster cast the invisibility spell on you, you really do need your team's support in order to perform consistently and effectively. This also means it goes a long way story-wise to have a rogue build rapport with their team, which is an interesting conflict because a lot of times if you look at memes, rogues are often characterized as kind of backstabbing criminals or characters that will steal from the party members. And in my experience, you actually need the opposite, where you need to be friends with everybody on the team so that they can support you in the right way to deal the most amount of damage per round. Now this brings us to major mechanic number 3, which is Cunning Action. Cunning Action is one of those class features that's very core to the rogue's identity, but is often forgot about, especially by new players. With Cunning Action, a rogue can take dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action instead of an action. As a side note, if your DM is willing to try it, a recent Unearthed Arcana called Class Feature Variance has an additional use for your Cunning Action, which is called Aim. However, we're going to stick to official class mechanics for this video. Now, the Cunning Actions give a rogue a unique action economy, which allows it to reposition more efficiently than any other class. Do you have a melee enemy that's up in your grill? Disengage is a bonus action. Are you in a chase sequence that really calls for you to move a greater distance than your other party members? Dash is a bonus action, then dash as an action, then use your movement, basically tripling your character's speed. Maybe the conditions are right, that you can hide as a bonus action so the enemy can't see you. Then you get advantage on your range attack by being an unseen attacker, and you can enable your own sneak attack. Now, unlike the other weapons-based classes, Rogue is the only class like this that doesn't get an extra attack as part of its leveling progression. However, because of these additional bonus action options, the Rogue is constantly solving a puzzle in combat. What's the best use of its bonus action this turn? And how are we going to use our movement to position ourselves the best to get the sneak attack that we need on the target that it makes sense to? This is why I love the Rogue, because built into its class design is this mini puzzle with a lot of different options, instead of like a barbarian, which is just, after I rage, run up, hit the bad guy. Instead, you get to coordinate with your allies, you get to use your bonus action almost every turn, and you get to roll a whole set of dice when you do get that glorious hit. So, if a rogue doesn't get extra attack, what does it get at 5th level? That's where we bring to major mechanic number 4, which is Uncanny Dodge. Now in the Barbarian video, which is in the cards above, one of the claims I made is that giving yourself damage resistance and having the damage that you're taking is the most efficient survivable feature in 5th edition right now. Now with Uncanny Dodge, a rogue that gets hit by an attack roll can use its reaction to have the damage, which functionally gives it resistance to whatever it's getting hit by. This gives the rogue a full action economy of a reliable action, bonus action, movement, and reaction almost every turn. And the last one we're going to talk about is major mechanic number 5, which is a rogue's reliable talent. Now, reliable talent isn't something you get until you invest in 11 levels of rogue, but boy is it worth the payoff. With reliable talent, if you were to roll a d20 on an ability check that you have proficiency in, which also means expertise, if you roll a 9 or lower on the d20, you treat the number you rolled as if it were a 10. And of course, that also means natural ones. This is a great reminder that natural ones in D&D, where if you roll a 1 on the d20, it's automatic failure, is actually a variant or a homebrew rule. And the way that it interacts with a reliable talent is because you're treating that natural 1 as if it were a 10, it negates that 5% failure chance. And of course, you could homebrew it if you want a 5% chance for failure. At my table, we agreed upon that, the nat 1 does mean 10. This also means that skills that you've chosen to be proficient in almost can't fail. Definitely true for skills that you have expertise in. And that means the lowest result you can get on certain checks is plain insane. An example of this is one of the characters I'm running right now, which is a rogue, that just hit character level 18. The lowest he can get on an active perception score is a 27. And his passive perception is a 32, because I took that observant feat. Now this is also combining to a feature of the rogue I haven't mentioned yet, which is out of all of the classes in 5th edition, Rogue as a class feature is the only one that gets to choose 4 instead of 2 skill proficiencies at first level character creation. The only other 2 that get more than 2 are Ranger and Bard. And if you combine those 4 starting class proficiencies with the reliable talent, it's amazing how many skills that you can build your rogue to just be so good at that they can't fail. So in summary, Rogue is an incredibly reliable ability check kind of class, and it has a very unique, engaging role in combat that makes it a solid damage dealer. Now, like all of these videos, the next thing we're going to address are some rough spots that might come up for the Rogue that we can smooth over. First, like I mentioned before, you want to make sure to build rapport with your teammates, so that way when you get into combat, they're more likely and more willing to support you so that you can get that sneak attack off. Sneak attack was explicitly designed to be able to go off every turn and still be balanced within the damage economy of the game. So there's really no reason, other than your teammates not being able or willing to support you, that you can't get sneak attack to go off every round. Another thing you'll want to establish and really build rapport with is your relationship with the DM. Hiding mechanics are intentionally vague in 5th edition, and if you have a DM that's incredibly stringent on how hide works, and you aren't able to be your own sneak attacker, it really is going to hamper your overall effectiveness. So just make sure before you pick a rogue class that you're going to be clear, and the DM is going to be clear with you when it is and not appropriate to attempt to hide. This will also lend value to combinations like Lightfoot Halfling and Wood Elf, who within their racial traits have built-in circumstances that allow them to hide. And also, like I said before with expertise and reliable talent, you want to make sure that you're conscientious of your other teammates. You want to give them their moments to shine, which may mean that you don't step in even if you're the best person for the job. If you have a +11 Arcana and you have a teammate that's a wizard that's +9, but the check makes more story sense for the wizard to make that roll, then it takes a mature player to be able to step back and allow somebody else to have their chance to shine. So now I want to hear what you guys have to say. What have been your experiences with rogues at your table? If you need some longer listening material, I suggest listening to our DM Shower Thoughts podcast at qagm.podbean.com. Let us know what you think of our discussion, and remember, game responsibly. Bye-bye now.